About 3 years ago, I made a video series reviewing games on a little website called Scratch, and I was amazed. Before this, I'd thought very little of Scratch, a place where I could listen to music in class, or get trolled, but as I looked into these Scratch projects, I began to realize that Scratch was significantly more versatile than I'd thought. Games with complex leveling, memory systems, and even 3D graphics. So I had to wonder, just how much is there to Scratch? Really? So I began the week by simply opening Scratch and beginning a new project. I understood it immediately.
When that is clicked.
Okay, so maybe not quite immediately, but over the 2-hour period, I began to learn some basic features.
Then how do I make him move? Oh, because it's not connected to anything.
And thus, I began feeling pretty good. Yeah, there was some more complex stuff to figure out, but it really couldn't be that hard.
Incentivize an idea of trapped feelingness.
Before we get to that, however, we probably should lay out exactly what it is I'm trying to accomplish here. So I wrote out 5 criteria that my little project here should meet by the end of the week. What am I doing to myself? Criteria 1. A functional way to lose. A core tenet of any good game is that you can lose. A little hurdle to make winning that much more desirable. Largely, I want to make it so that when Zeb here touches little Perennial here, that the player will fall over and a little dialogue will screen before the game ends. Simple and easy to research. I think this is probably both the most essential and one of the easiest to accomplish. Criteria 2. Multiple levels. Something that I struggled with particularly was the backdrops. Switching between them, sprites, where to use what and when. Particularly how to get the player from one place to another without messing all the scripts up. Fairly simple, again, and one I think I understand the basics of already. It's more how to integrate it within the wider gameplay loop that is, ironically, throwing me for a loop. Criteria 3. Customization. One of my favourite parts of games is their customization. This can range from simple colour sliders to more complex changes such as size and clothing. I'd like to perhaps have it change size and or colour, but I'm not sure yet. Now, I think looking at this may be the easiest one of the bunch to complete, as I've already utilised costumes for staging, but I couldn't really figure out how to switch between them this time. Criteria 4. Looping. Something I cannot figure out is the looping blocks. I'm not sure why, but whenever I try to loop the actions taken by Zeb, I cannot figure it out. This is frustrating because if Zeb is going to work at all, it needs to loop. In hindsight, I sound really stupid here. I imagine this one might just be going over my head, and I'll figure it out later without any major interference, but it also may not, which is why I have it here. Criteria 5. A mute button. I did not think this would be a criteria, but here we are. The problem here is that while, yes, I can make a button that cancels the volume, I cannot make that same button bring back the volume. I figure it has something to do with the if-else blocks, but there seems to me not to be any practical way to accomplish this. While perhaps not the easiest, I do think that all these are reasonably achievable by the end of the week, which bodes well, because it's actually 6 days. The first thing I began to do on this day was research, particularly watching tutorial videos and beginner's guides for Scratch. I think I should say this now, but thank you to GriffPatch, because he consistently had a tutorial for some of the most particular questions I had. So thank you very much. My strategy here was to watch some tutorials, ponder about for a few hours, and then see what I could implement. And... oh no, I've retained sweet nothing. So this forced me to go a little more traditional, and begin following tutorials as I watch them. I decided to focus on my first criteria for today, losing. In actuality, it is fairly simple, only requiring a little more knowledge than I had already. Using the broadcast blocks, I could create things that I've largely overcomplicated in the past. The problem with the simple methods is that they didn't consistently run each check. So while you'd almost always lose, and the game would usually register it as such, if you moved at the right time, it would keep playing and simply appear as though you had died. So the game wouldn't reset. But using a method that was slightly more complicated, while perhaps not boding well for the end of the week, does in fact fix most of this issue. Most. Thus, towards the end of day 2, I rehashed over what I'd learned, and this is what I had. I mean, decent progress in my mind, which in fact would not set the tone for the succeeding 4 days, where I will try to learn the rest of my criteria.